Hello, welcome back to Tad Chat. No longer from the couch, working from home in the new office. So office bound these days. But following on from last week's video where we had one of our viewers recommend a topic, this week we've got another viewer who I'm sure won't mind us using his name, Cluffy, who's asked us to talk a little bit about how to stay on top of your game. And from the message I was sent, he kind of talked about how there's lots of books out there and everything else on how to get to the top of your game, but nothing really on how to stay at the top of your game once you're there. So this one's going to be a little bit more professional, a little bit more sales bound, but in reality, I think a lot of what we'll talk about will be transferable to any profession or life in general, to be fair. And I don't know about you, Darren, but I kind of think, the first... Did you want to say something there, buddy?
No.
Okay. The first statement I kind of make is I think, some of the biggest mistakes I think people make when they reach a point in their career or personal life where they feel I'm at the top of my game is recognizing that you're at the top of your game. And what I mean by that is you're never at the top of your game. And I think the minute you have that belief of I'm the best at what you do, you've just begun the journey of going backwards at what you do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess it's important for people to know what success is going to mean to them in whatever level, personal, relationships, work, money, all that sort of stuff. And then you've got something to work towards, your definition of it as it is now. Yeah,
1,000,000%. And I think that's part of the
We've started already.
We've started already. That's it. I'll get you doing it soon. I see you copying with the glasses, so you'll be saying it soon. But the key thing is if you're looking at where you are now, you're tunnel visioned. You're tunnel visioned, and it's like, well, this is what I've achieved so far, and it's got me to this pivotal point in my life or my career, and all the successes that I've had and all the trappings that come with that. But it's a different mindset. I think staying at the top of your game and recognizing that there's still a journey to be had is a completely shift in the way that you think. And I think that's kind of where it starts, because the world is ever evolving, it's ever changing. And I think, not being disrespectful towards anybody, but if you're going to say I'm the best at what I do, it's almost arrogance. It's almost arrogance in the essence, because you're taking away the millions and millions of people out there that could be, that are outside of your business or outside of your bubble, when you're not looking at what the world has got to offer.
Well, no,
Do you know what I mean?
If we talk about, being a big fish in a little pond, if all you know is your pond and you don't know that there is a lake or a sea or an ocean out there, then I guess that it comes down to your level of awareness. And I don't think it's a bad thing to be unaware. Maybe it's just a bad thing if you are made aware, but you choose to ignore.
I think, that's a great point. I think that's a great point. I think it's all about changing your mindset, isn't it? I think when you reach a pivotal point of where you feel that you've done everything you can, I think you have to change your mindset, because if you don't, it has the potential to lead to areas where you start to become disengaged in what you do. You start to become bored in what you do. You start to become, the person you never really wanted to be, because you feel that you've reached everything you possibly can reach,
Yeah, and that's ever changing, because I guess when we're kids, the goals we want to reach is to do well at school, and then you want to do well in sixth form or college, and then you want to do well in university. So
that's it. And
it's only what maybe in the next sort of 5 years ahead of you.
Well, 5 to 10 years, last week you talked to me about how I feel about starting up my own business, and if you can argue as a head of operations, I was in a pretty good position, in a pretty good place. And I think opening my mindset up and thinking that actually, where do I want to be in 10 years? You know, I was in a very closed mindset place for a long time in my career. And it was very much a case of, I'm good at what I do. I've achieved things. I've had failings, as I've mentioned before. Hasn't always gone smoothly, but when I look back at when I've left places, you know, there's been a good, you know, growth projection that I've left behind me, and you know, changing my mindset and opening my mindset into a new world has led to setting up a consultancy business, as I've mentioned. But it's all about looking at where you want to be, and in my mind, it's not so much the 5-year cycle anymore; it's the 10 years. You know, it's the 10-year plan, and I think I mentioned that last week that you know, it's about where I want to be in 10 years that's driving me at the moment, not where I am today.
Yeah.
And that brings me, I think, quite nicely to the video that you sent me in preparation to this particular topic for this week, which I felt when I watched it, you know, those 3 mindset shifts, I think are pivotal to recognizing that, you know, it's important to continue to grow and to how to motivate yourself, most importantly, because I think that's the problem. You reach the top of your game, you get to a point as how do you motivate yourself to open up your mind to take another leap forward in what it is you do or where you want to go. And those 3 points that came out of that video, I felt were very, very poignant, you know.
Well, I know what those 3 points are, and you know what those 3 points are, but everyone watching this doesn't know. So what are they?
So I'm going to have to go refer to my notes. So you're going to have to forgive me because I've only watched it today. But look, I think it's, like I said, it's all about changing the way that you're thinking. And, you know, if you can change your focus, and I think the first focus point is to ask yourself a very simple question of, you know, who do you look up to? You know, and I think by having somebody as a focus point that you always look up to, I think inspires you. It inspires you to better yourself. It inspires you to want to go out and learn more. And it inspires you to almost, we've talked about walking that person's footsteps, you know, and that could open up so many more paths and learnings and understandings that straight away help you recognize that, oh my God, I'm not actually at the top of my game. I'm only 50% there, you know. Sorry, go on.
Number 1.
That's number 1. You tested me now. I've got it down.
Yeah.
Number 2 was always have something to look forward to. And I think that's so poignant and so important. And I think that keeps you balanced. And, you know, for me, the thing I look forward to the most all the time is spending time with my family, spending time with my boy, you know, and that just gives me something to look forward to. And for me personally, it takes pressure off. You know, and I think I forgot that early on in my career. It's not that I wasn't looking forward to spending time with him. It's just, you know, I didn't allow that to override the pressure and stress that was in my life.
Yeah.
Which then clouded my judgment. But, you know, always having that moment of I can't wait for the weekend, or I can't wait to see my son. I can't wait to go and do things or just game with him or whatever it might be. You know, that just gives me balance. You know, that just gives me balance.
I think that if you're clear about what you want, you know, what's going to make you happy, what is it you want to achieve, what's going to make you feel that life is worthwhile and everything else, and if what you're doing is congruent with that, then you run the risk, and this is a good thing, of falling in love with what you do, because what you do is going to facilitate what you want.
Absolutely.
And then instead of something becoming a chore or feeling like you're a cog in somebody else's machine, you are your own machine, steering your own ship towards the place you want to be.
That's it. And you're doing it for yourself. You know, you're doing it for yourself. And we talked about that a little bit last week, didn't we? But the one that I really like the most out of those 3 points, and the third one is always have someone to chase. And I think a lot of times, especially in the sales environment, you know, everybody's looking around them, and everybody's looking at who the top performers are, and they're the ones that they want to emulate. They're the ones that they want to chase down. And I think this is where it can go wrong, because if you find that you can't emulate what they're doing, and that's perhaps another video altogether, but if you find you can't, you tend to lose confidence. But if you find that you do emulate what they're doing, and then you surpass them, who do you chase then?
I guess it's something that you're always reviewing, isn't it?
That's it. And I think from the video you sent to me, you know, and I've certainly heard the phrase of your biggest competitor is yourself. But what I loved about the video you sent to me was the statement of the person I chase. This isn't word for word, but the person I chase is who I'm going to be in 10 years' time. You know, and I personally found that incredibly powerful, because when you're talking about how to stay on top of your game, I think if you actually take yourself, we talked about at the beginning, if you take yourself out of the here and the now, and you allow yourself time to think of, who do I want to be in 10 years' time? Where do I want to be in 10 years' time? That's your remotivation. And you'll never, the beautiful thing is like trying to chase the top performing salesperson. You'll never catch up, because you're always going to have to strive, because the minute you get to that person in 10 years' time, you're going to say to yourself, right, I'm now competing with myself for the person I'm going to be in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And that becomes your motivation. And when we talk about losing your motivation when you believe you're at the top of your game, I think those three steps, especially the third one, I think help keep that motivation fresh, you know?
I think it's also important to remember how far you've come as well. And what I was thinking is measuring in whatever metric you're using, measuring what you're doing and the steps that and the gains that you're making, because you may forget where you were. And then when you reflect on where you were and where you are now, you can feel encouraged that you're actually on the right path and doing the right thing, and you're on the right trajectory.
Yeah.
And that this journey that you're on, you might be here and thinking, you know, I've kind of got to where I want to be. But if you look at the path you've had and where it's taking you, it can be quite exciting about the confidence that you get from seeing that you're improving, and the self-inspiration. It's great to draw inspiration from others, but if you can inspire yourself by your own successes and your own overcoming your own hurdles and failures along the way, then that could be a huge motivator as well. Oh,
massively. I think it's easy to forget that sometimes. And again, I'm referencing last week's video, but you know, I think last week I mentioned, you know, some of the challenges that I'd faced over the last couple of years, and I kind of expressed that how when I was living in that world and trapped in that little black hole, you know, all my other successes that I had achieved and the journey I'd gone on previously, you know, I wasn't focusing on that. I wasn't even thinking about that. None of that mattered, you know. And I think it's important to recognize the journey you've been on and how you got to where you are today, and the lessons that you learned on that journey, so you continue to apply them, so you don't become overconfident, you know, and you continue to apply them whilst focusing on where you want to be in 10 years, you know. Because it's a skill. I think it's a skill, you know. I had this conversation with my son a little while ago about what going to school is actually about. In my mind, it's not actually the principle of passing grades and passing exams and conforming to society and sticking to the rigid structure. You know, in my mind, the school years are important, and they're important because what you're actually doing is training your brain to learn. You know, and if you can continue that learning journey, and I've talked about self-development in the past, it blows my mind why people don't self-develop. I just don't understand it at all. You know, we can sit here all day long and say, I wish I had this, why haven't I got this? We've talked about this kind of thing all along, but whether you've reached the top of your game or you're struggling to get to the top, if you're going to rely on other people to just give it to you, and you're going to wait for that to happen, then it expects to reach a certain point and to either stay there or to start going backwards again. But if you continue to self-develop and self-learn and self-teach and use all that information that is free but go and find it and invest in yourself, then you're going to increase your chances of whatever success you want to achieve in life, 100 times over.
You are right. I know the problem I had with self-development, personal development, is that I had a preconceived idea about what it was. And to me, self-development, personal development was this happy, clappy stuff. Lots of people in a room, all hyped up and stuff. And it was a barrier for me to learning more about myself, developing myself more. I think it takes a big step to actually open yourself up to the possibility of being a student of personal development. And I've sometimes said in the past, I think the most important piece of personal development is not the most impactful, but it's the one that actually gets you believing that personal development is a good thing to do in the first place. The one that
what would you say that is? And what would you say that is?
For me, I listened to an audio of a guy talking about a philosophy about how to approach things, to understand that things aren't going to always go your way, but if you persevere and if you make up in numbers and practice what you lack in skill at the beginning, then you can compete against someone who's better than you. So for example, if we were to choose any type of topic and you get 9 out of 10 and I only get 1 out of 10, if we have a 24-hour competition, I will beat you, because you'll do 10 and get 9, I'll do 100 and get 10.
Yeah, I get that.
So it's that, like I said, making up in numbers for what you lack in skill and experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was something that I thought, actually, I've got this wrong. Maybe it is good, this stuff. And one thing I always like to think is that if I listen to something, I watch something, I read something, if in whatever that is, if I can take one tip that I can apply out of that thing, out of that book, out of that audio, out of that video, out of that event, it's been worthwhile.
Yeah.
They say it takes 21 days to adopt a habit if you do it every day. So I've sometimes thought, what an interesting study it would be if you just challenge yourself to adopt one good habit a month. At the end of 12 months, you'd have 12 good habits that you don't have now. And what impact could they have?
Well, there's a great book out there, isn't it, which is the 12 Habits of Successful People, I think it's called. And
seven.
Sorry,
Stephen Covey.
Sorry, I've seen stuff with 12, and I've read a few things.
You
on
need
that,
12.
I need and the rest. But look, that's a great book, and 7 Habits of Successful People. I think I've actually got 2 copies, but
so 14 for you then.
14, yeah. But look, to bring it full circle again, and if we've got time, I'll give a bit of an anecdotal piece about.
It's a quick one. We're on 17 minutes so far.
Okay, in that case, I won't. But to bring it full circle anyway, I think how do you stay on top of your game? I think the first point is, first of all, change your mindset. Don't ever think that you've reached the top of your game. Even if you are incredibly successful at what you do, there will be somebody out there that you can learn from, and I think adopt those 3 principles that we talked about earlier, which I'm going to have to review back to my notes again. Always have someone to look up to, have someone to inspire you to learn from. And if you can't find that someone, go and search for them. Always have something to look forward to help you keep yourself balanced and to help motivate you. If you want to become better at what you do, what better motivation than to give your family an even better life than what you're currently giving them. And number 3, compete with yourself, compete with who you want to be in 10 years. And that starts with setting goals, and then use those goals to motivate yourself, to inspire yourself, as you said, and then to use that ultimately to go and self-develop and get off the couch, stop watching Match of the Day, or stop watching EastEnders or Gogglebox or Celebrity Love Island or whatever it is. Yeah, and use that half an hour. Use that half an hour to better yourself as a person in whatever field or need that might be. And I think if you follow those steps religiously and make that a habit, I think you've got more chance of continuing that growth that you've experienced so far in your life. And that's it for me. I think that in a nutshell would be my take on it.
I think one other thing, either write it down and or share those aspirations with other people, because then you've put it out there in the world, and you then make yourself accountable.
Well, that's a whole nother one on visualization, isn't it? And I think the other piece of that is be careful who you share it with, which we talk about all the time. Pick the right people to share it with, for sure. Make sure they're positive influences.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna have to wrap that up, right?
We are.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and look forward to speaking to you on next week's video.
You ready for a 3, 2, 1?
Oh, I'm ready for it, mate. Go for it.
Go on then. 3, 2, 1. See you later.
Oh, I missed the
Over
camera.
the camera.